Points.
Welcome to another episode of the Broad Points podcast. I am your host, the Broad That Points, the Broad with the Points. It's me, Tyler, the lady. Welcome to episode 38 of the Broad Points podcast. I am so excited today to share with all my ladybugs. That is what we call our listeners here on the Broad Points podcast. Share with all of you ladybugs a wonderful, wonderful, I consider old friend and awesome guest. She is an entrepreneur. She's a coach. I believe she still is running a salon. She's a bodybuilder. And honestly, we identify her as a girl who does a lot of cool stuff. She is Brianna Lakin.
Hey y'all. That was quite the intro. I appreciate you.
Oh, I feel like you're just such an awesome person, and I've just always loved your energy and everything about you. You deserve, all of
Aw,
all of the accolades and all of the praise, and just you deserve just a wonderful introduction. So I'm happy to do you justice.
I appreciate you. But always been here to cheer all of us on, and I love that. Like you're always pushing us. Ever since I've known you, I feel like you're always egging us on, and I just love it. Like the hype woman through and through from the start.
Yes. That is like all I want to be. And it's actually so funny. I was talking to one of my friends that I met down here,
Mhm.
and I feel like I have changed a lot in this life. And you knew me back in high school, which
Oh yes,
not a lot of people can say.
I remember.
Everybody that I meet these days, they're like, "Oh my God, Tyler, you're so zen, you're so chill." Like I can never imagine you being, angry or
Mhm.
mean or like any of these crazy things. And it's just I was telling my friend, I was like, I'm so excited to talk to Brianna because she knew me.
Oh yeah. We were two angry girls in the same pod, man.
Ooh, and you always like channeled my like inner anger. Like you just like had the looks. Like you had the dark hair and then the
Had the
colorful
rage from the
hair,
inside out.
the rage. Yeah, I really felt like in high school you were like my spirit animals. I know you
I
can't
appreciate
say
that.
that
Nope,
anymore.
I will
Nobody
take
can say
that.
that, but that was how I felt. Back when things were appropriate to say, that was
I'm
how it felt.
here. I am here.
I was living for it. I felt like, I don't know, I could never get my hair to do the things that you got your hair to do.
Girl, I was doing the craziest things to my hair. I was sitting there like, remember when the like scene kid haircut was in and I had that on lock, like I had that shit down pack. I was in there with a razor chopping it up like a mullet. I had the extensions, like, and I guess that translates to today because I do hair.
You do
So
hair. Yes, tell people what kind of hair do you do?
So me and a girlfriend own a salon down in Kent. We have a few girls that work with us, and I specialize just in color and extensions, and I love it. I've been doing that for a long time. I started at Jean Juarez, and I was sick of being in a box, and I was sick of being in corporate, and I was like, well, what the heck? I can just be my own boss. And
Mm.
COVID hit, and I was like, I need to get out. So it's been like that ever since, and I'm so glad I'm never going back.
Hell yes. Hell yes. I remember very first seeing you open up your salon on, it might have been like Instagram. I don't know. I'm so bad with social
Mhm.
media.
Yeah, it was when I left Jean Juarez and I did the little Sola studio like across the street. And I was just like, honestly didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I was like, well, I can't be any worse than where I was coming from before. I can always go back, I guess.
Yes. And I
I
I think
never looked back.
it's so inspiring just all of the different leaps that you've made, of knowing that
Mm,
you're not happy and then being like,
that's the biggest thing, right? That's, I feel like a lot of us felt that during COVID, especially because we had all of that time to ourselves. And I think we get so stuck in the mundane day-to-day activities and so stuck in our routine, and we almost become like comfortable in that and afraid to branch out. And I think it eats at a lot of us and does kind of like the anger that we were talking about earlier kind of comes back up, and you almost get resentful of your life that you're living when we should be grateful for even being here in the first place. But you can't truly live your life fully and authentically as you unless you're following your heart fully and what your passions are. And sometimes that's not what your day looks like.
Hmm.
So I think it's so important to just follow what's in there and just live truly authentically you. And it's like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You have to pivot and go the other direction. If there's an oh shit moment, we can always change things.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I mean, honestly, I was talking today about how how boring it is to just be sad all the time or just be
Hmm.
dark all of the time. Like
Yeah.
I really embraced that tortured artist kind of vibe, and I was like, if I'm not
Hmm.
in pain, this art will suck. And it's like
Yep.
that like that just becomes
It's like,
such
I
a
just want the world to feel what I'm feeling because I can't be alone in this, right?
yeah, yeah, truly misery loves company.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, yes, she does.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, we lived it. I mean, I lived it. I know myself for like quite a few years before I decided to make some changes and decide, like I don't want to be boring. I don't want to like trauma bond with people. Like I'm really over
Yeah,
that.
that's a real thing. That's a real thing.
Oh, girl, people out here just latching on and like just
Hmm.
holding for dear life to their traumas. And it's
It's
just
hard to get out of that cycle.
Oh, it's so hard to get out of it. And I think, we talk about we grew up, I'm gonna say we grew up in like White Center Burien area. Would you
Hmm.
say that's accurate? Is that how
Oh
you
yeah, yeah,
identify where you grow up?
yeah. Is White Center, Berrien, that yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. People always make fun of me down here because we grew up in a ghetto called White Center. Or like it has white in the name.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I lived there until November of last year, and there's patches that are rough. It's been very gentrified, I will say.
So
It's a lot
gentrified.
different than it was growing up. There
Yes.
are safer parts, but overall, it's like, there's so much crime and there's so much, I wouldn't even, there's so many different demographics of people coming together, and maybe people that live there that don't have as much opportunity, income, low
Mhm.
income, now mixed with higher income, and it's really hard to see what's
It
going on.
It is. Every time I go
Yeah.
back there, I feel like there's a new, what would we call this? Security protocol.
Yeah. I think
Like,
we were talking about this. Like, there's the Safeway on 28th and Roxbury across from the bowling alley casino that I lived a few blocks away from that would get robbed almost every weekend. And it's like, I can't even walk into the store. And I know this is such a first world problem, but I can't even go in and buy like seafood because they have like basically bike locks on the refrigerators and the freezers because people are stealing food because they can't afford to eat.
yeah,
Like it's bad.
it's so nuts. Yeah, my first thing was seeing, I think it was like the Target that like had like the doors, or maybe it was
Hmm.
a Fred Meyer, like has the doors now, the little gate arms to let you
Yeah.
through, and a
Yeah.
security guard checking your receipt now. And it's a
Hmm.
Safeway in Burien, they lock up the ice cream.
Yeah. It's very like, I don't even know. It's really sad.
It's so sad. I laugh because it's comedically bad.
Yeah.
Like you can't make this up. Like the
Mm-mm.
fact that this is the state of the world, this is where we grew up, like people don't understand the gravity when you leave, places
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm. It changes your perspective, that's for sure. Makes you really thankful for the things that you can afford,
It makes you so thankful for
the
the
little
things
life
that you can
luxuries here
afford.
and there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it absolutely is. Because it does become, a choice in everything that you do and everything that you buy, especially with not to like totally shit on Washington, but with how dense the population has become within the
Hmm.
last few years, um, the infrastructure it's just not made for that. So like you said, now we
No.
have these two different classes that they're clashing, and there's
Hmm.
heavy drug issues, I would say, in
Yeah,
Washington.
it's really it's concerning. It's really depressing to watch it. I feel for everybody, and it's like I don't even know what the answer to that is. And it's like
Mm-mm.
it's in multiple issues kind of conjoined in one. It's not going to be an overnight fix. We
No.
can do better for
We
sure.
we can definitely do better. And I really do believe that so much of like the drug abuse problems, it really does stem from the mental side of things. I believe
Hmm.
that there's a lot of mental illness or anguish, right, from traumas,
Yes.
that then people are looking for that escapism. And
Yeah. Or
it,
even just to cope because it's too much. And,
mhm,
yeah, if we had, it's getting better. If we
it's
had
getting,
better access to healthcare, mental health, actually got people what they needed, the help they needed, I think we'd be in a way better place.
yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. And I think
Mm,
preventative as well, which is why
yeah,
I was so excited to see your journey because everybody's journey is different. But something that I firmly believe that we have control over is our bodies and our minds,
a
you
hundred
know?
percent.
And so to take, and we both did it, right, in different ways.
Hmm.
For me,
Everybody's journey is different and beautiful in their own way.
everyone's journey is different and beautiful. I started as an athlete and then have kind of transitioned into just like a bunch of, I'm gonna say weird shit.
We like the woo woo stuff, okay?
I like the woo-woo
We're
stuff. I
woo woo
mean,
girls.
I'm down to hike. I love some yoga. I love a dance class. Like I kind of my fitness journey, it's kind of all over the place.
Hmm.
But also my environment too. Like for me, I noticed I was severely depressed living in Washington, and I'm going to tell everybody right now that you can't escape your problems no matter where you go. They will always go with you. But for me, I really needed just a change of scenery. I needed honestly vitamin D.
Hmm. Hmm.
I needed some vitamin
The
D.
seasonal depression up here is real. Your girl
Yeah.
stays on her vitamin D supplements. It kind of
Good
helps
good girl.
sometimes.
Sometimes. Sometimes. Do you have the happy lamp? Do you get one of those yet?
I need one of those. Yup. I need something.
You know, Happy Lamp. Oh gosh, yeah. Because I was working before I moved. I was living in this like really crappy studio apartment, like on the Queen Anne Hill, and
Hmm.
it was like max 500 feet. I think it was
Oh
closer to
yeah.
400 square feet. And it was like, it felt like maybe a janitor's closet that they converted into a studio
Hmm.
apartment. There was like no insulation. I just had a brick wall on the one side of me, so it was always like super cold in there. And yeah, I wouldn't get any sunlight because it was like
Yeah.
down this alley with this wooden fence. And so I just like looked out at this wooden fence with just blue light just
The
burning in the
lovely
rain.
view outside your window. They just stuff us in boxes in these apartments now.
Oh, it's so brutal. It makes me so
Uh-huh.
sad.
Yep.
Like, wow. Where do you live in like an apartment now? I know you're
Yeah, I just
there.
moved into an apartment. I'm very grateful for what I can afford and what I have available. I do live in West Seattle now, so it's a nicer area, just kind of like by Alki. So I
Hmm.
do have a little view of the city. I'm facing the street. I love my view of the hill. It snowed the other week and it was pretty.
Oh.
I'm spoiled. I know not everybody has these luxuries. I pay a
Yeah.
pretty penny, but it's worth it.
But it's worth it. And you work
Hmm.
hard. It's not like you are
Yeah.
just sitting on your ass to get this. Like you work hard for this. This is the life that you want to live.
Hmm.
Um, which really, I think now is maybe the perfect time to introduce your fundamental phrase.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought long and hard about this one, and it really resonated with me, especially with the whole self-love and living truly and authentically. And it's just, I just want to live my life wherever my heart finds life at? And I don't know, like, you just got to follow your heart, man.
You really do. You really do. And I think everybody's journey is different. And so your fundamental phrase of live where your heart finds life, it's so freeing. Like
Hmm.
it's so
It's just,
open-ended for everyone.
it's different and everybody's going to see things differently. Everyone's heart's going to want different things. And that's the beauty of humanity, right? We all are able to pick and choose a path in life and what we value. And that's what makes it special and unique.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely it does. So let's tell the listeners a little bit about your journey or where you come from. Let's start there.
Oh man, where do I even start? Like, I know you know all of this. Like, let me just low key kind of trauma dump on you guys real fast. Trigger warning.
Trigger warning to learn.
Yeah, literally. Um, I mean, like we were talking about earlier, we were both angsty kids, like definitely angry. I grew up, I mean, my parents were divorced. There were some things going on behind the scenes that made it really hard to be at home and uncomfortable. And there was some physical, emotional abuse going on. And it just translated to me being an angry kid and an angry teenager. And I think that I'm thankful for my struggle. Don't get me wrong. I'm always a very big advocate of not letting your trauma define you, but being grateful for the way that it shapes you into the person that you can grow and become of it. So I'm not regretting anything that I've ever been through, but it was rough. I mean, I searched for love in the wrong places. I definitely learned the hard way, speaking of trauma bonding, making poor choices in friendships, in romantic relationships, seeking validation and love from others. And it ultimately led me down a path of more abuse, both in those relationships and friendships, sexually, physically, emotionally. And I just kind of, in my adulthood, just never really learned what a true relationship was. And I'll never forget, it was, I think me and my ex got together, and I just thought that this person was the one. And I look back and I'm like, wow, I was so naive. But this was such a pivotal point in my life. Um, we were together for, I believe it was just almost 5 years, just a few months shy of 5 years. And he was the most toxic, abusive, never said a nice thing to me. Honestly, I look back on it, treated me like dirt. I gave them the world. I was definitely a people pleaser, and it translated into that relationship. And, he gave me a millimeter of what seemed like love, and I just took that all in and latched onto it. And he wasn't taking care of himself. And he drugged me on this long, long path of taking care of him. He was a type 1 diabetic and didn't do anything to control it, and ultimately passed away from it and strung me along. And I remember being the sole caretaker. I'm the one that had to bury his body. I'm the one that had to pay for everything. And here I am, just, single girl taking care of a disabled man that I'm supposed to be in a relationship with, and having to navigate all that it was like, gosh, it was 7 years ago now. So I was 25. Like, what 25-year-old goes through that?
Yeah, yeah,
But
that's heavy.
it just kind of broke me as a person. Like, I just remember, and this is going to be a super big trigger warning. Like, this is going to get real deep. And a lot of people don't know this. If you know, you know. And if you don't, you're about to hear it. I just remember sitting in my kitchen just being like, this is when I'm going to end it. Like, I can't take this anymore. Um, I definitely harbored the guilt of, like, I could have changed this person. And now I realize that you can't change anybody that doesn't want to change themselves, right? You have to be the one that wants to seek that. But that was rough, and I never healed from that. And unfortunately, it drug into my next relationship, and I looked for emotional validation and wholeness again in an unhealthy way. Um, and I ended that, this last year, and really started focusing on the self-love. But we were in that relationship for 7 years, and at 5 years into it was when all of that trauma and everything started coming back up to the surface. And I remember hitting that point again where things were overwhelming, and I was sitting there, and it was after my dog got paralyzed, and I had to move to the other side of the water to be with my mom to take care of my dog so I didn't have to quit running the salon because I was the breadwinner. I was, making more money than my partner was at the time. And I was also able to, have the flexibility in my day with my schedule where I could take care of the dog. So I just took the brunt of it and moved, and I didn't get the emotional stability that I thought I was going to get. And it broke me again. And I remember on my way home one day, I had to pass state patrol every day. I would come home to my mom's house up the hill,
Hmm.
and I came up with a plan. I was going to sit in front of state patrol and end my life. And as soon as I started kind of putting that into motion and thinking about that every day and like thinking of a time and a date, I knew I had to move and switch everything. And that ultimately like made me look in the mirror and realize that if I don't change things now, I'm gonna follow through with this because I'm a person that follows my plans. And that's when I seeked out bodybuilding, believe it or not. So it was like I needed something that was gonna completely shift and do a full 180 turn on my life. I wasn't gonna wake up and do the same thing, or I knew I wasn't gonna be here anymore. And I'm so happy I did. It's challenged me emotionally, physically, spiritually. I really think it's helped rewire me into a different thought pattern every day. And it's led me into a whole community of beautiful people that I would have never met and the most amazing friendships. And it's just been the biggest blessing of my life. So kind
Oh,
of brings me to where I am now.
yeah, yeah, it's so beautiful to hear that. I have two questions. My first question
Mhm.
is, in high school, did you like in gym class, did you participate? Or were you like one of the girls who
So
put their
it's so
sweatpants over their
funny.
skinny jeans so that they didn't have to take their skinny jeans off?
If I could have kept my skinny jeans on, I would have, but I think I would have busted out of them because they were so tight.
It was a time of tight
They
pants.
were tight, okay? They were like painted on my
Painted
skin. It was
on.
kind of impressive. I peel it off at the end of the night.
Oh, I would have to
No,
run out of mine at the end of the day. Like I couldn't
yeah,
just
you're like
pull them off.
on
It's
the
like,
bed trying to peel them off. Like, no, I definitely, it's funny because it's like I wouldn't consider myself an athletic person. But if I did apply myself, like I remember I wasn't good at running. I'm still not, don't ask me to run. I'm a walk, I don't walk. That's
I
it.
walk. I like to
We
walk.
don't run around here.
Uh-uh.
But if it was
Unless it's
like,
for my life, I'm not running.
yeah, no, unless I have to, we're not
Yeah.
doing it. But I mean, I always enjoyed like if we were playing like football or something like that, or like basketball, like I enjoyed it. I don't think I was the worst at it, but I definitely don't think I was the best. Like I was not an athletic person growing up. So it's like
Okay.
I don't know what gave me the itch now, but I was like, I really want to fucking do that.
That's my next question. I was like, what then linked you or like popped up bodybuilding into your
Yeah.
mind?
It was so funny because it's like I think it's kind of a multi-layered kind of like field answer here. But I mean, with the neglect on myself and my body, obviously I was overweight. I think at my heaviest, I was just over 200 pounds. And I just remember bouncing back and forth probably since I was like 22 between losing and gaining the same 30, 40 pounds. And it's like, I just couldn't keep it off. And I kind of fell in love with weightlifting when I first like got serious and initially lost the 40 pounds like years ago and
Mhm.
eventually put it back on. And I just remember going back and forth between like I like the monotony of it. It's like almost a time where I can zen out and really just focus on me and honor myself in a different way. Um, and almost kind of like drown out all the other noise and just focus in and like problem solve and just in my head, just spend that time with myself. Um, so I was kind of in between powerlifting and bodybuilding, and I just loved the idea of stepping on stage in a sparkly rhinestone bikini with heels
Yeah.
and my makeup done. It's like it's a beauty pageant for muscles, okay?
Yes. Yes.
Like what kind of girl doesn't want that?
Yeah. And especially I think too, like you said, you weren't into that sort of stuff growing up. And
No,
like
I never thought.
we only have one life. So like if you want
Hmm.
to do it, if that's a thought in your head, like now is the
Go for
time.
it. the most
Now is the
liberating
time.
thing I've ever done in my life. Like, I will
Yeah.
never be afraid to do anything else again. I stood on a stage in front of a bunch of strangers, almost butt naked.
Almost
Like,
naked. Yeah. Lubed up and naked, basically.
literally hot oiled, orange as hell, face beat to the high heavens,
Yes.
bikini hoisted up my ass.
Up your ass. Yeah. It was like incredible. I had like to
Thank
see,
you.
like I said, I've followed your journey a little bit. I am so bad with social media or like keeping up with people, but every now and then I pop up. My algorithm seems to
So
like you.
hard.
And so
I
it like
will take it. It's
I'm
favoring me. Thank
I'm
you.
so fucking pumped too, because I'm like, hell yeah, Brianna, you go, girl. Like every little thing that I see. And then I see your competition photos and I'm like, oh my God, she did it. Like I remember when you were like
Mhm.
first in your heels, like at the
Yep.
gym and you were like starting to do your poses. And I was like, okay,
Like a
this is
baby
new.
deer. Like
Like
a baby deer.
with
I
the
was so
wobbles.
bad. But
Oh,
that's the thing, right? Is like we're all going to be bad when we first start. Like I'm nowhere near perfect, but
yeah.
I'm better than I was.
Yes. And honestly, too, when you were talking about the monotony of things, I feel like for me personally, and maybe some of the listeners can relate to this, I've been struggling with consistency. I love the
Hmm.
idea of
Yeah,
weightlifting and like just the consistency for me, I have a really hard time with. But
that
then
is the hardest
listening to
part.
you talk about like the monotony in it, like I'm pretty sure I've even said it on this podcast before, is finding comfort in
Hmm.
consistency. And it's like, yeah, it's gonna
Yeah.
be the same every time. And we can find comfort in that. We can
Hmm.
problem solve. We can, find that rest state even when, we're stimulating our muscles and our mind.
Right. And I think that's kind of the beautiful thing too, is like you almost find peace in the consistency and the monotony of it, right? It calms your nervous system down. You know what to expect. It becomes a habit. And if you think about it in a way from a place of self-love that you're giving yourself and showing up for yourself 100% every single time, it's like it makes the hard things worth it and it raises your threshold for what you can do that's uncomfortable each time you do it. And if you can push that bar a little higher each time, it's like there's no roof for you to break through. Like it's going to keep raising the ceiling, right? So you can keep going endlessly with it. Um
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And two, the way we do one thing is the way that we do everything. So, if we're not constantly challenging ourselves in some way or another, like it bleeds out into everywhere. We start to live like a lazy and boring lifestyle.
Yeah.
And like you said, like you're not afraid to do anything now. Like you're like, this
Yeah.
is giving you, a
We
whole
do the
new
hard
level of
shit every
courage.
day, so what's going to be harder, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I mean, I always try to start my day with like a walk, or something where it's like getting me in the mindset to like be my best self for the day,
Mhm.
and like hearing you
Yeah.
talk about weightlifting, it sounds like that's what you're doing. Like you're
Yeah.
giving
And
yourself,
it's
that's your time.
yeah, and it's like funny too because it's like it's the weightlifting, right? That's the big piece that everybody sees that the bodybuilders do, but it's like it's the sport that's 24 hours a day. So it starts the second you wake up in the morning until the way you end your night, and it starts bleeding into every avenue of your life, which I actually really love because it allowed me to reset the way that I'm running my life to be a more productive person so I can meet these really lofty, ambitious goals that not a lot of people can do, right? So it's little things like I remember like doing the self-help, like trying to learn like what are these pro bodybuilders doing? It's little things like making your bed in the morning. It's
Mm-hmm.
preparing your food. It's going to bed at a decent hour at night to make sure you can rest and recover with your body. It's taking the time to draw yourself a bath with Epsom salt and relax for 30 minutes and just let your mind unwind because we're trashing our nervous system every day lifting heavy weight. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
all of these different things. Um, and it's been really healing. And it was funny because I listened to a lot of podcasts also on like the mental health side of everything because there is, a lot of like things come up in bodybuilding not being great for mental health because it can kind of bring problems to the surface that were already there, especially when you're in a prep, because you just start going to a different place mind frame wise, and it's a lot on your body. And doing those hard things in the morning and being consistent with it, the things you don't want to do, like getting up, brushing your teeth, like resetting your bed first thing, it rewires your neuroplasticity to be able to do hard things, and you get pleasure from doing the hard things afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, totally. Rewiring our brains and, making new paths instead of going down the same paths, we can
hmm,
do it.
we
And
can heal.
yeah, and I think there are so many times when we can just make excuses. And maybe that's honestly why I like to get that walk in or, that first. And I think you even said maybe you weightlift in the mornings or you prefer to weightlift in the morning. It's
I do
like
prefer, yeah.
less time for excuses. It's like
Hmm.
just get it in and get it
Get that
done with.
shit done, then,
Yeah.
I think that we have this weird thing as well, it's human nature, right? We want to do what's most pleasurable. So if we get the things that are most least pleasurable out of the way, we will always find time to do things that we want to do. I think that's why a lot of us are like, I don't have time to do this because it's not something that you prioritize because it's not high on, you don't feel like you're gonna get dopamine from it, right? Like, who wants
Mm-hmm.
to go to the gym and get sweaty and like be in pain? Like,
Yeah,
and lift things and count to 10. Like it's not, it's not the funnest thing in the world most of the time, unless you're crazy like me. But if you get it done, then you're going to do all the other things. Will find it'll fit into your day. You
it'll
don't
fit
even have to
into.
think twice about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you prioritize things, you'll make it work. And I think that was
Hmm.
honestly one of the things that like when I went to school for coaching, that was one of the things that they said. They're like, I want you to write down the things that you do.
Yeah.
Those are your priorities. And I was like, in the order that I wrote them down in, I was like, what is going
Hmm.
on with my
You're
priorities
like,
right
wait a
now?
second.
And
I
I'm
see where
like,
my priorities really are.
oh shit, I'm saying one thing, but my priorities over here say another
Hmm.
thing. And so it really is about, what is truly a priority to you. And I think with the judgments that can come along with bodybuilding and with any sport or pageant, that I don't know, are pageants considered sports? I'm
I
like
feel like they're kind of extreme.
they're pretty extreme. The way that they have to like stand there like a robot for so many, it's
Hmm.
it's pretty impressive, not to mention some of their talents. But I feel like with anything where you're getting a lot of critique, it's easy
Hmm.
to go in and critique yourself
100%.
unless you do have that mindset of like, it's not for anybody else. Like this is
Hmm.
for me.
Yeah. We always say it's you versus you. Like you're,
Yeah.
yes, when you get up on the
Yes.
stage, everybody else is your competition, but the only thing that you have control over is the way that you show up. The
Hmm.
only thing. You're not going to know. I don't know who other girls are going to stand next to me. I don't know if they're going to show up better than me. All I know is I'm going to show up my best, and that's all the effort I can put in. Is my
Mm.
100% for that.
Hell yeah. 100%.
Hmm.
100%. Just show up
100%.
100%.
Just full send it.
Full send. Can we get a full send over here, please? Yeah, I mean, it really is. We only have the one life. And so it really has been inspiring to see you go on this journey and see. I mean, at one point, I even feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong or we can edit this out, like you were
Yeah.
even doing like pole fitness. Do
I
you
was, and I'm actually playing with the idea of going back. I miss my pole dancing classes. I have a pole, it's not up in my apartment. And it's like, that's another thing too, kind of going in with the bodybuilding stuff. And it's funny because we see it as such a masculine sport. I have found, and I've always searched for her, my feminine energy in this sport. Like the self care and the taking care of myself and like the confidence that comes with it and the ability to just be comfortable sitting in who you are as a person and liking who you are brings that comfort. Like, so we can do stuff like that. Like, I'm not conscientious like I used to be if I go to the pole class. I didn't want to do it because I felt not confident before, or I felt like I didn't belong there. I wasn't feminine enough. I wasn't sensual enough. And I found all of that in the most masculine of places, but it was because I took the time to care for myself in it.
Yes, yes. And instead of trying to like force yourself to fit into something, you're
Yeah,
like, no, I have taken the time with my body to get my body into the shape that I want it to be in. Like everybody's trying to chase these crazy shapes. I don't know, all these people with the giant butts these days. And I'm like,
if only.
you can squat. I'm like, but you could squat and like not have you seen the videos where the butts like flip over?
Oh man. Or like it's
Oh,
like the bad botched BBLs where it's like no leg meat and then just ass.
yeah.
Like, girl,
It's
we can do some lunges and squats. It's okay.
we can do other things
It's
and then
hard. I
you
mean,
don't
I'm
have
not ripping on anybody that's got a BBL because I'm low key kind of jealous.
but we can work for it. It can be worked for. And like
Exactly.
the human body shape, like naturally, like when you look back at like all of the people who are like starving, because now
Hmm.
everybody, middle America, I'm sorry, they're not doing us favors there. But back in the days when everybody was starving, like everybody kind of had like the hourglass shape and the men had the broad
Hmm.
shoulders. And it's like because they actually had to use their bodies. Like
Yeah, a
they
lot more
actually
manual labor.
yeah, you actually had to
Hmm.
use your muscles, and like people these days are like mostly just kind of potatoes.
It's really concerning. Yes. And it sucks too, 'cause that's another thing is like I have PCOS and something that directly affects it. And the best way for me to manage I would call it a metabolic disease, is the amount of skeletal muscle I have put on. And I think it would do so much better for people. Like we could control and eradicate type 2 diabetes. Can't do
Mhm.
anything about type 1, that's genetic. But, all of these, there's so many illnesses that could be better managed and I feel like totally taken out if we took care of our bodies just a little bit better and honored ourselves a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. We need to honor ourselves. First and foremost, we need to honor ourselves so that we
Hmm.
can really honor the world.
Yeah.
And I think that, all we can do is control our own choices. And that's like really why I started this podcast, is just to give
Hmm.
people more choices, to like tell people, hey, there's other options out there.
Yeah.
And, once you
Maybe
start
this will resonate with you.
maybe this will
Hmm.
resonate with you. Maybe this perspective or this person or this set, like, whatever. And it doesn't have to be very calculated. It can just be what it is so that things click for people at different times.
Yeah.
They might even listen to this when it comes out and it might mean nothing. And then like a week later, it could like change their whole world.
Hmm.
Like
It's so true.
it's just
So
really,
true.
it's just about giving people the choices to do so. And I mean, self-love is the biggest thing. I always tell people, you are the only person that is going to be in your corner 100% of the time.
Hmm.
You're the person that you have
Yeah.
to go to sleep next to every night. Like, you're it. Like, you got
Yeah.
to deal with that. And for whatever has happened in your world, in your life, like the more we hold on to those things, the more we attract those things. And,
Yes.
you touched on it, like recurring trauma and patterns of like, I experienced a lot of abuse. And then I was so focused on being that tortured artist and like
Hmm.
harping on the abuse that I experienced that it really just brought the same things, just kept
Yep.
coming into my
I was
circle.
putting out that energy and attracting in the same thing. And it's crazy how things shifted when I started loving myself first.
Yep.
And even like noticeably, the biggest is like in my friendships.
Yeah.
I don't question who I have around me anymore. It's just, it's different. And just the way you show up for yourself. Like, I truly don't believe that you can have a healthy relationship with anybody, including yourself, if you don't love yourself.
Mm-hmm. Seriously. Seriously. Yeah, because I mean, it just turns into a crippling codependency. Like if you're
A
not doing it
hundred
for
percent.
yourself and you're thinking somebody else is going to do it for you, that's really when we find ourselves like on that external journey. And I mean, I can say from experience and just from what I've witnessed that that journey is never ending. For
Hmm.
as long as you think that whatever you need is outside of yourself, you will always be on a journey.
Hmm.
Um,
And only get so much external validation. It only does so much for you.
It only does so much because once all of that stuff is removed, I mean, like it's just your inner child, right? Sitting there alone in an echoey room with all of your
Hmm.
darkest thoughts.
Hmm.
Like,
That's a terrifying place to be at.
that's a terrifying place to be at. Like, oh my gosh, why would we choose to be there?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
it's a
Yep.
choice. And inaction is an action. To sit there and continue to do nothing, that is an action. It's choosing to do nothing. And
Yeah.
so that's why I was honestly so pumped to talk to you and just see that you wanted to be a guest on this podcast because you have continued to make choices. Like not always easy choices, I'm gonna say either. Like
Definitely not the easiest. Not always the best choices, but we try.
we try, and you're just so human. Like I like everything about you is always just it's so relatable. You're so like, yeah, I fucked up, but I learned something, and
There's always a lesson to be learned.
there's always a lesson to be learned. And I really do feel like in my adult age, that is like who I gravitate towards is people who are learning lessons. Not the people who want to trauma
Hmm.
bond, but the people who are learning lessons.
Yeah.
And then you told me that you were a coach.
Yes, yes. I need to
And
be better about it. It's a very small coaching business right now. It basically pays for my coaching. So it's like an equal exchange.
yes, yes, but
Yeah,
it's being a hype woman. You're a hype
yeah.
woman too.
And I'm just here and I started doing it. So funny because I was like not interested in it at first. And I just saw how much my coach like directly affected and helped me in every area of my life. I mean, including the bodybuilding, because that's mainly what she's there for, right? She's
Hmm.
my lifestyle competition coach. But just these hard moments I've had in my life where I have to like learn these lessons from, she's been there. So it's not just like coaching on food and exercise, it's like the life skills that go with it and having somebody in your corner and like somebody that understands what you're going through and encouraging you and telling you it's okay that you made the mistake. Like, and
Hmm.
I just wanted to be able to help others do the same because I know how good it feels when it finally clicks. And I've had a few clients that it's clicked for and they go off and they do their own thing now, or they don't need as much from me anymore. And it feels good to know that I'm helping them in that way.
Yeah, yeah, it's like your gift back to the world. It's so
Hmm.
beautiful to
It
see and
fills
like
my cup.
it fills your cup. You're like, I've
Hmm.
learned this. I want to share this. And like, I mean, that's why we're here. I mean, that's why we're doing this
Yeah,
podcast is like we just want to share. Like there's light at the end of the tunnel.
exactly. Everything will be okay. I
Everything
promise.
will be okay. What you're going through is normal. Like so
Yeah.
many times, like I run into people and they're just like having a crazy day and it's like, "Oh yeah, that's happened to me too." Or like,
Hmm.
you're going through a crazy day and
Yeah.
someone's like, "Oh yeah, that's happened to me too."
You
And it
never know what somebody's facing. You never freaking know.
you never know what somebody's facing. You never know what somebody's been through and like to just give people the time and just remember people are human, I think is important.
Hmm. A
Like
100%.
I used to, this is funny. I used to get really angry when I would drive. I was like, because I'm a good ass driver, like
Hmm.
I
Oh,
know the
girl, I used
rules.
to have that rage in me.
Oh, girl. And I was like, I know the rules of the road. I know I'm right. I know I'm
Hmm.
gonna go faster than you. Like, get out of my way. Use your
Yeah.
blinker, like common sense things. I would get so mad and I'd be like yelling at people in the car, like, get the fuck out of my way.
Right.
Just like
Like, get
freaking
out of the left lane.
yeah. And then it like clicked to me one day of like, what if that was me? Like,
Hmm.
because it's happened. I'm not, no
Yeah.
one's perfect. There have been times that maybe I got over that I didn't realize there was a car there and I was like, oh
Yeah.
shit, my bad. And I'm always
We're
like,
all
oh,
doing our best.
yeah, oh, my bad. Like, that
Hmm.
person could be me in that car being like, oh, my bad. Like, they didn't know. It's not the whole
Yeah.
world is out to get you.
I've always, I've met people throughout my life, and I used to be like this too with the road rage thing, and they just get so mad, like being in traffic. And I'm like, I like to think the way I run my life is I am where I'm supposed to be in that moment,
Yeah.
whether I understand it or not. And if I am stuck in traffic, gonna be late, so be it. That's where the universe is placing me right there. And it might be for my own protection or a greater good. It might be because I'm supposed to cross paths with somebody later. I don't know. And I'm not gonna deny that. And it's like, So what? You're 5 minutes late. You should have left 5 minutes earlier. Like, I don't know. It's not that
Hmm.
big of a deal.
It's just not that big of a
Like the
deal.
road rage is crazy to me now, but I used to be that same person because I was just angry all the time.
Yeah, I was just angry all the time, but yeah, I'd get so pissed, and now I'm just like,
Hmm.
oh, it's kind of frustrating that you're here and that you're blocking my fast lane, but
Yeah,
I mean,
this
I'll go
is where
around you.
I am.
Yeah, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
this
If
is
I got
this.
room, I'll wiggle
If
around.
I've got room, I will make some maneuvers, and if not, this is where we're supposed to be. And
Exactly.
I think at one point, when it shifted for me was when I was living up in
Hmm.
Arlington, Washington,
That's far.
and I was commuting to Soto.
Ooh,
Oh God,
girl. That's
45
like,
miles.
I was like, how long is that in traffic? That's like a few hours.
Oh, it depended on the day. I'll tell you what,
Oh,
girl. It depended on the
ooh.
day. Some days, I could get home in like 90 minutes, and
Hmm.
that was a good day. Other days, it was like 3 hours.
Yeah,
Um,
nope. That
it was it
that
was
drove me to insanity when I
it
had
was
to do that between Bremerton and Kent.
it was a certain kind of painful, and at the beginning of it, I had horrible road rage.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Um,
Yes.
Luckily, I actually started listening to Ram Dass on my
Okay.
drive. So he has like books that he had done. He has since passed away, but he has like books and audio books and podcasts and just all these different things. And he's just like this super, super chill guy, yogi who had like just done a bunch of psychedelics and
Yeah,
then
I
and
love
then
that.
yeah, and then was like got in trouble because they were him and Timothy Leary were professors and they were like doing acid. And then they were like, okay, now we're in
Yes.
trouble for doing that because we're professors, so we can't do that anymore. And Ram Dass went on this like spiritual path.
Mm,
He like traveled to India. He like got like super into yoga. He like transformed his whole life. It was like absolutely nuts. But he just talked about everything. You're exactly where you're supposed to be right now, and just talked
hmm.
with such love. And
Yeah.
like, I was just like, how do I be that?
Yeah. You're like, how do I get on that level?
Yeah, because and like he was just talking about like the interconnectivity of like everybody and like he didn't continue to do psychedelics. Like I want to preface that just so that
Hmm.
people I hate it when people are like, "Oh, I've got to do psychedelics in order
Yeah.
to have a thing."
Drugs are not always the
Drugs
answer.
are not
They can
always
be a
the
tool in a controlled
answer.
environment.
They can be a tool. There are a lot of, people who use them as tools, but they are not
Hmm.
required to look within yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of fear around that where people are like, I'm so afraid to do the work. And then they're like, I need drugs to do the work. And
Yes.
I
Yes.
totally don't agree with that.
It goes
And
back to the coping, right?
it goes back to the coping, exactly, the coping, the escapism. And Ram Dass, he went into like the breathing side of things and like the yoga side of things. And years later, I took a class at Highline Community College actually,
Hmm.
and there was a black robe yogi that was my teacher, and she had trained with Ram Dass in India. And I was
Interesting.
like, what is happening? This is like when I was doing this, like driving back and forth, and like I had gotten into stand-up comedy. So I was like,
Hmm.
holy crap. And now I'm meeting this yogi who like trained with Ram Dass and like knows him as a personal
It
friend.
was
And
meant
like
to be.
it was meant to be. And I just like, and she spoke with such love. And I was just like, I just want to like find that place of love within me. I'm so
Hmm.
tired of being angry. Um, and so yeah, it's cool to hear your journey too of like, I just got sick of it.
Yeah, we just both of us were like, nope, we're done. That's enough for us.
We're done.
You've had your fill, and you know when it's time.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think there's a time when I do think that we both got to the point of being like we're done with this life.
Hmm.
Um and it happens. I want to remind all of the listeners that it happens, and if you're there, definitely reach out.
Yeah,
Like take the time to reach out to your friends. I think that's really important. If you
that's
can't
the
reach out
biggest
to your
thing.
family, a lot of people are like, "Oh, reach out to your family." Not everybody has great
Sometimes they
family.
don't get it. I mean,
Yeah, sometimes they don't, even if you do have a good relationship with your
mhm.
family, sometimes they don't get it. And so I think it's so important to, reach out to people that inspire you.
Yeah.
Reach out to your friends, reach out to anybody that you feel comfortable with, and
Yeah.
find those next steps. Because
Mm-hmm.
ending your life, that's the final step. There's no more anything after that.
The end of the line. And I will say, if you are feeling like that, please seek professional help.
Hmm.
I definitely did not do that for the longest time and up until recently. And I'm like, why did I wait so long? It was a
Hmm.
pride thing. It was a fear thing, a fear of being judged. Um, but man, like, you need help. You can't do it alone. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay to ask for help.
It's okay to ask for help. I think it's so important to remind people of that. And a lot of the times, I mean, you kind of touched on it, but we don't have the role models
Hmm.
growing up to really help us navigate these feelings and these emotions that we're
Yeah.
having, or these situations that we're experiencing. Like I wouldn't necessarily want to handle some of the situations I've been through, like either one of my parents.
Yeah. Well, and they might
Like,
not have the tools to be able to navigate it with you, right? Like,
yeah. Or the
they're
tools
there
to
to raise
communicate.
you, but when it comes to mental health stuff, I mean, it's like trying to ask your parents what's wrong with you when you have appendicitis and you need your
Yeah.
appendix taken out. Like, you got to go see professional help,
Yeah.
right?
Find a specialist. Find someone that
Hmm.
practices in that. And yeah, I think I'd love to hear about your experience with your therapy. I found a lot of clarity. I found a lot of things where I was like,
Yeah.
oh wow, I wasn't responsible for that because I took a
Hmm.
lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
Um,
Not gonna lie, I am going back and forth between fighting this want to try talk therapy and kind of being met with these obstacles in finding the right person.
yeah.
I had a not so favorable experience last year that I am navigating, where I essentially got gaslit by my therapist.
Oof.
I am now seeing a psychiatrist,
Yeah.
um, and I did make the choice to go on medication for multitude of reasons, including the suicidal ideations that were coming at back. And I'm like, this isn't normal. Maybe talking isn't enough. Maybe there's something actually chemically imbalanced in my body. And I had to kind of come to terms with that. And it's been the best choice of my life.
Yeah.
I finally found something that works for me, and now I'm finally feeling like I'm in a place where I can confront those emotions better in talk therapy with a different therapist. I am in the process of seeking one, but everybody's journey is going to look different, and you might go through a couple of therapists before you find one that works for you. I've been through probably five now and haven't had a great experience with any of them, to be completely honest. So I'm
Yeah.
still on the hunt.
Yeah, it can definitely be a really hard journey.
Hmm.
I think too, it's almost like scarcity at this point because everybody's like
Yeah,
trying to
it's
find
so
one and like
hard.
they're overworked, and
Ugh,
so it's like you don't know what you
yeah.
don't know. But yeah, I think staying persistent, trying to
Hmm.
just find somebody that works with you, whether that be yeah, like you said, if there is like suicidal ideation or anything like that, like professional help.
Hmm.
If you're just looking to move forward in your life, like there are coaches, like there are people to
Yes.
help you, set goals and, hold you accountable to those
Hmm.
things. But knowing when to reach out for help is so important.
Yes.
I definitely had reached out for help. And I mean, you just learn different things. I mean, like, I didn't know that there was, like, I always knew that there was like Alcoholics Anonymous, which, like, I don't subscribe to. I don't
Hmm.
drink, but I'm not like an AA person.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
like everything's going to resonate differently, right? Like
Everything's
what
gonna
works
rise.
for you might not work for the next, but it's all about finding what style kind of
Yeah.
works with you.
Yeah. And if you don't have the problem, there's Al-Anon. I never knew Al-Anon was the thing because I guess I never deemed myself as having a problem. We've mentioned this off the podcast, but I'll mention it
Yeah.
here. Brianna and I grew up in a different generation.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
We grew up in a different kind of
That's for sure.
generation of like partying and going hard, and we've made some real life changes.
Real choice decision making.
Real choice decision making. We're alive though. We let it go. We
Hmm.
let the grasp go. When you let the grasp of the terrible things go, the terrible grasp that the things have on you also is released.
Yes.
It's like
Yeah.
just be done with it.
It's not serving us anymore.
It's just not serving us anymore. And yeah, I mean, and in the times when I was like not doing well, reaching out to a therapist and just knowing like, oh shit, it's not me.
It's
Like,
just the validation, right?
the validation, yeah, the acknowledgement and the validation alone,
hmm
are just huge. And I didn't realize how big those things were, but just knowing
Yeah.
that you're not alone in this life, I think is so important.
hmm
So that's why we just keep reminding people here.
Exactly. I love it.
Oh, so I'm gonna say right now, you have been such a fun guest, and I'm so
Well, thank
happy.
you. This has been a blast. I always love
Yay!
talking to you.
I always love talking to you. Every time I see you, I'm like, it's been too long since we talked.
Yeah. We need to
But
catch up.
we need to, I know every time I'm like we need to catch up, but I love seeing you always. I feel like even though it feels like forever since I've seen you, like we always just pick right back up of
hmm
like we're just two chill ass girls doing chill ass
The
things.
best, man. It's the best.
It's the best. And so, where can people find you, Brianna? Can they follow you on social
Yes.
media or
Please follow me. Please reach out. Even if you just want to say hi or just, I don't know, you want to like spy on me, I'm cool with that too. I am mostly on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is super easy. It's just my first and last name, Brianna with two N's, Brianna, Lakin, Lakin _ and I'm really not on Facebook, but that's probably, if you want to reach out and find me, I'm on there all day, every day. So that's where you can get me at.
right? I know I always do the like post to Facebook from Instagram. I'm like, I don't
hmm
just there's too many
I
apps.
haven't even been doing that lately. It like started randomly posting my reels, and then I was like starting to get like a little more engagement. I was like, oh yeah, I guess I can share over here, but it's like weird. I got like a lot of family on Facebook that I don't want them to kind of see some of the pictures I'm posting, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
Ah,
That's another
yeah.
thing too, is like, you can control who's getting exposed to your content and who's exposed in your life. You're allowed to have boundaries.
You're allowed to have boundaries for sure. You're allowed
hmm
to block people.
Yep. Push that block button. Don't regret it. Don't
Don't.
double think about it. Just push it.
Don't. Yep, just do it. Protect your peace. That's a big thing.
Exactly.
Like you got to
Yeah.
protect your peace. And is there anything that you want to promote right now? Telling the people, now we know to reach out to you
Yeah.
at Brianna Lakin on Instagram.
Yes.
Any
Yeah. I
coaching
mean,
things or
yeah, if you guys need coaching, Instagram's where you can find me at. If you have questions, if you're not ready for coaching, but you have a question about like diet or whatever, if it's in my wheelhouse, I will do my best to answer your question. Or if you just want to chat, like I'm here. I'm here for everybody. If you just need like somebody to vent to, a shoulder to lean on, I got you.
heck yes, you do.
Mhm.
Brianna's the best.
No, thank you. You're the best.
Oh, yay. Yes, definitely reach out to Brianna for all of your hair, nutrition, bodybuilding, all of your needs.
I
She
got
does it all.
you.
She's
I'm
got
like
you.
the jack of all trades, master of none, but
Master of none. I know. You and me both, dude. You and me both. I
we're
love
just
all
out
the
here doing our
things.
thing.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like, I just love all the things. Like, I don't want to
why
settle.
not? We like to dabble.
Yeah, just dabble a little here, dabble a little there, share it all with the world, and like that makes me happy. Like
hmm
that
hmm
can be okay. Like if that's what you want your life to look like, that's what you can make your life
Exactly.
look like.
The whole point of this, right? The pursuit of happiness.
It really, really is. Yeah. And I think, just not letting people influence that, just staying true to yourself.
Yeah.
Um, so let's then wrap it up one more time with your fundamental phrase for the week, Brianna.
Yes. Let your heart live where it finds life. Follow your
Yeah,
heart
yeah. Live where
always.
your heart finds life. Thank you so much again, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.